Great to see you, Brad. We have a mutual friend who first connected us, and the more I got to know you, the more I felt like I was meeting an alternative version of me in the multiverse had I gone into business instead of education. It's great to see what you've been building at Triad. So much so that you even gave my leadership class a great tour of your office and then gave them some great insight on building a business. So, with all that said, thanks for coming on the podcast today.
Good to be here, Nate. And by the way, one of the most creative podcast names that I've ever seen. So I love what you're doing with the show.
I have to give credit where credit is due. Teammate of mine from BYU, he started calling me that, and then we were like, "Hey, we should play intramurals basketball team. That will be the name of the basketball team." So it was the great intramural basketball team, Mickles and Dimes for a while, and rolled it into the podcast. Well, Brad,
Love
as
it.
you think about things that you've learned from launching and running a successful business, what lesson have you learned that you would most like to share with others?
So, Nate, on my side, I think if you talk with any entrepreneur, they're going to have multiple. And it's like, wait, which one do I pick?
Mhm.
And so the one that first came to mind for me, and a little bit of my background, I've grown up in the world of finance, and I had the opportunity to really coach independent financial advisors for about a decade and a half before I started my own entrepreneurial journey. And so basically, my clients that I was coaching were entrepreneurs. They just happened to be entrepreneurs in finance that were financial advisors. And one of the very first learnings, the first year that I had, it's and no disrespect to the professor in the classroom, my man. I want you to know this, but it's a lot easier to coach or teach financial advisors than it is to actually be one. And kind of the analogy I made, it was almost like I was the professor in the classroom, but I'd actually never jumped in the trenches myself. And one of the learnings is, wow, I mean, I have so much more empathy today, looking back 5 years, my last 5 years of my entrepreneurial journey, of all of the stressors that sometimes hit an entrepreneur, that you didn't really prepare for. It's like, oh, here's the personnel issue that popped up on my radar today, and I wasn't expecting that one. It wasn't on the calendar. Starting the business from scratch, um, signing up to lease a printer and figure out what company do you use. Oh, the internet connection's down today. And especially when you're a small company, when we had 5 or 10, 20 employees our first year, when things go wrong, everybody turns to you and says, hey, what do we do? How are we going to fix this? And so I wasn't quite prepared for all of the different curveballs that could get thrown on the daily. And I'll pause there, but I do have a stoic lesson that I think kind of hit home for me that I think applies to finance. But before I go down that rabbit hole, yeah, that's kind of the first thing that hit is like actually being in the trenches as an entrepreneur is very different from like what you see on IG reels and Alex Hermosi videos and all the stuff, which is kind of the glorified version of, the entrepreneurial journey oftentimes.
There is a common saying in academia, those who can do, those who can't teach. And there's some truth to that, I think. Now, maybe many of me and my colleagues we could do if we really wanted to, but I have no doubt in many ways it is much easier to be on the outside looking in, being the journalist writing about the athlete compared to being the athlete on the field risking the wins and losses. So it seems like part of this lesson that you learned or going through this experience, I think you used the word was empathy. You this
Mm,
enhanced your empathy for entrepreneurs, if I heard you right.
yeah.
Okay, so let's go for some. Let's go a little deeper, and I want to hear about this Stoic lesson.
So, and I just want to circle back because you made me think about this when you kind of, well, I don't want to miss the opportunity to throw a great movie line in. So I think it's those that can't do teach and those that can't teach PE, direct
Yeah,
from the
very good.
School of Rock, as we
School of
know,
Rock. Yep.
Jack Black himself. But, I say like, I think the difference is the beauty of a classroom is there's a separation between the stimulus and the response. Like in the classroom, we can take like the Enron situation. Okay, what's the business lesson? And let's like look at it from all angles and let's deconstruct it. In the real world business, it's like, boom, it's on your desk right now. You got to sort through the mess. And it's really this stoic lesson of being calm and confident. Like control what you can control And just like I can't control the weather outside when it's raining, if I put my energy towards that, I'm kind of just creating added stress that
Hmm.
I can't control. So therefore, why am I putting that on myself? And so there's a Stoic lesson, and there's a few different versions I've heard, but I believe this one, if you trace it back, it was from Epictetus. And he talks about this idea of a prized cup or lamp. And it's a little bit of the Stoic lesson of when you've already done a mental exercise of here's my prized cup or lamp, which here, I've got one, so I'll just hold it up for camera. So here's my prized cup. And the whole idea of human loss occurs when I'm not prepared for it. So if I drop this cup and it shatters on the ground, now I'm devastated. That was my prized cup and all of my emotions tied to it. And oh, I'll never be able to get that back. It was a one of one, whatever. Where if I've practiced the mental exercise of the cup has already broken, now I've mentally gone through like, wow, number one, I appreciate it much more while it's here. Wow, this someday this cup will break. Therefore, I appreciate it now. I'm present while it's here. And also, if and when that does happen, now I'm not devastated because of that act. And so it's almost like back to that calm and confident as an entrepreneur, oftentimes it's like, ah, oh, here's the personnel issue I didn't plan for, and these two teammates can't get along, and now I'm devastated, and now I've got to jump in. And I will say the first year of being an entrepreneur, I wasn't ready for it. I was not ready for the cup that had already broken. 5 years into the entrepreneurial journey, the saying of the entrepreneurial roller coaster is real. The highest highs on my 45th birthday, our RIA, that's less than 2 years old, hit $1 billion under management. That's a massive milestone, true team effort, highest highs. So proud of our team. We battled through it. And that's like a big company win. Well, the next day, if there's not a personnel issue today, most likely there will be one a week from now, or 2 weeks from now, or 3 weeks from now. And because I've already gone through the mental exercise of it will happen. It's just a matter of time because we run a company with people, and people sometimes have issues getting along and working together. That's just human nature. But now I'm like, okay, I don't get so tied to the high highs and the low lows. Now my day is ruined. It's just like, okay, if not today, probably next week. And now there is a system that we need to create so that the next time it happens, we navigate it in a way that best serves our company and best serves our team. And now we learn from the last time. So the next time it doesn't just throw us for this massive curveball. So that's kind of like the philosophical approach that I've kind of tied to and also like learned from, to where now how do we apply that to business and being grateful for what we have today, but also being prepared for what we're not ready for tomorrow.
So I love the calm and confident approach. It reminded me of Andy Reid when, Super Bowl, Travis Kelce literally bumps him because he wants to be in. And
Mm,
when I interviewed Andy, I said, "What's going through your mind?" And he said, "One of the things was just stay calm." He said, "First of all, I'm a dad, so I know that kids can get a little crazy." And so he said, that prepared me.
right.
He's like, "But number one, I just wanted to stay calm and I tried to put myself in Travis's shoes. Like Travis wanted to be out there. So, of course, I want a player like that." And so one of his main lessons was he feels like to be a leader, it's important to stay calm. So I really appreciate that. That resonated with me. And then I love this idea from Epictetus. So I've not actually heard it quite described like this with the prized cup or the lamp, but I do remember reading some Stoicism talking about negative visualization.
Mm,
And so much of, sports psychology, so much of like pop psychology is, imagine the best, think positive, think positive, think positive, right? And I remember reading about Epictetus talking about how it's important to imagine the negative thing happening so that when it happens, you can deal with it like you were describing. And I think it's interesting to hear you describe that as a leader, as an entrepreneur, because of all of the ups and downs, you've gotten used to all of the ups and downs. You've gotten used to the cup breaking, and so you expect it. Last two things I'll say, and I'll let you react. A friend of mine says most frustration in life is due to violated expectations, and most expectations are implicit. I think there's a lot of truth to that.
mm,
Most frustration in life does come from violated expectations, and most of the expectations we hold are implicit. Last thing that's just, sorry, kind of related to this, but I heard something from Jocko the other day. no matter what happens, his response is, okay, good.
Mm.
No matter what happens, the response, okay, good. So anyway, lots of thoughts that are related
Well,
to
I
just
mean,
trusting
I
God.
got to touch on that last Jocko one. We were fortunate enough to have Jocko come
I
speak
remember that.
at a Triad experience when we were out in Austin, and he literally, and Jocko's a powerful presence, which I got getting a chance to meet him, an intimidating figure, you know, doing a tweet every morning at
Mhm.
4:30 or a.m. or whenever he clocks in for his early morning workout. But one of the kindest, most soft-spoken humans I've ever met. Like his external presence is very different from the person he shows up as, very engaged. And he shared that lesson from stage and he said, "Hey, open the office door and three of your team members quit. Good." And the lesson behind it is when life actually here's another one. I just had this business lesson yesterday. We were on an internal coaching and the exact name of the session was never let a good crisis go to waste. And if you think about, I look back at COVID crisis for a lot of people in our industry, marketing, year-long marketing programs and plans were literally thrown away overnight when the world shut down. Well, in this conversation, one of the members on the call said, we couldn't do public events. We couldn't do these at restaurants and grow our business. So we had to pivot and we started figuring out webinars and doing it virtually, just like we're doing this conversation right now. And guess what? They worked. And it was, necessity is the mother of invention. And now, guess what? Today, 5 years later, we're back to doing public events and we still do webinars. And we created a new marketing funnel out of a crisis. And back to Jocko's feedback, good. So I'm not going to let what I can't control me. Now I'm going to look at it in the face and I'm going to grow from it. I'm going to learn from it. And I think as an entrepreneur, if you break down like the true definition, all entrepreneurs are problem solvers. And so if you didn't sign up to solve problems, you're probably not an entrepreneur. And guess what? New problems present themselves on the daily, whether it's competition, whether it's AI and the emergence of that. And so now survival of the fittest. And if you're not here to evolve and grow and solve new problems, then you're really not meant to be in business and you're going to go extinct. That's just how it works. And so rather than letting it just completely gut punch you on the daily, I'm just like, well, hey, this is what I signed up for. So let's go. Let's take it on. And some days that's easier said than done. Like we all have emotions as humans. But if you don't show up calm and confident, you show up emotionally volatile and not confident, nobody's following that. As a leader, nobody's jumping on that train. Oh, let's sign up for the emotionally volatile leader.
Yeah.
That's just not how it works.
Well, you've given me insight into entrepreneurship that I haven't quite had before. Obviously I've had different jobs, I've worked, I've consulted, I've kind of been in the fire, been in the furnace at different times in my life. And of course, in academia, there's ways to be in the furnace as well. But I really like this insight of how being an entrepreneur is basically just signing up to get your prized cup or lamp broken over and over again and learning how to deal with it while staying calm and confident. So, anything you'd like to share any final things you'd like to share as we wrap up here, Brad?
Yeah, I did we're fellow podcasters. I was sharing before we hit record here, Nate, that I love your side of the mic, but it's fun when I get a pop over on the other side of the mic too. And I did an episode a while back on my show. Do Business, Do Life is the name of the show. And that's also one of the mantras here at Triad, what we try to do, not just for our team, but also our members, our clients we serve. And one of them was that was actually probably of every episode I've ever done. And I've been fortunate, like you, to interview some pretty cool people over the years. And this one was just a solo episode, and it was why every entrepreneur should be in therapy. And back to being calm and confident. One of the stoic practice, if you think about it, if I've already mentally practiced the exercise of the cup is already broken, now it allows me to be more calm in the moment when it does. And I think, you're a professor, you were a college athlete. Obviously, coaching was key to be on the football field. You mentioned Andy Reid. In business, golf coaches are very common. A lot of financial advisors that are golfers, business coaches are very common. So there's almost like zero resistance to coaching. But unfortunately, and it's mostly us dudes that have resistance to this. I grew up on a farm, rub some dirt on it and move on would have been my coaching with, dealing with stuff. And it's the old saying, put your own oxygen mask on first before you put on the one next to you. And I think to truly be calm and confident, it starts with looking yourself in the mirror. How did I show up there? Not proud of that one. What can I learn from that? And I look at therapy like I think it could use a rebrand because therapy has stigmatisms like I'm broken or I have a mental disorder. I would rebrand therapy as coaching, mindset coaching. And if I now can examine my own thoughts, as one of my business coaches said, think about your own thinking. And now I have a forum to start to do that and say, oh, wait, was that kind of my own flawed blind spot? Or, something like probably didn't look at myself the proper way, and have external coaching where you can kind of start to work through these dynamics and grow and level up as a person, the guy that's looking you in the mirror every morning. It's crazy how much that is applied to business. And so I think every entrepreneur should be in therapy simply to get coaching on your own mindset and thinking. And so that's just an episode I put out that really resonated, and it kind of just tied into what we were talking about here.
Yeah, great stuff, Brad. I listened to that one. I remember it. I loved it. And I was just interviewing somebody the other day, Silicon Valley consultant, and he said, think about the most elite athletes. Who gets the most coaching? It's them. The
Yeah.
most elite athletes are the ones that get the most coaching. To get from the bottom 25th percentile to the top 75, whatever, you can cover a lot of ground with a little bit of work. But if you're in the top 90th, 99th,
Mm.
and you want to get a little bit more, it gets harder and harder to make ground. And it makes all the sense in the world that if you look at the best performers in sports, they get the most coaching, the most feedback. And if we really want to excel, we've got to embrace, would you call it the mental mindset, the mindset coaching?
Yeah. Well, just I'll echo that. I know you have short and sweet episodes, so I won't make this too long, but just had the opportunity to hang out with Jason Khalipa, former CrossFit Games champion. He was at one of our Triad experiences we just got back from. And he said exactly what you just said. He won the CrossFit Games. The very next year, he came out guns a blazing. There was like a long run, which he's not a big, like, if you see his build, he's a thick dude. He's not a marathon runner. And he literally went so hard because he amped himself up so much, he got dead last in the very first event.
Mhm.
And so he had to claw his way back up. And I think he ended up finishing like fifth or sixth, which is wild when you got last in the first event. And he goes, what I realized, to your point, everybody in that CrossFit Games was the top 1% of the 1% of CrossFitters in the world. And I needed to level up my mindset coaching to be able to take it to the next level. And so to your point, like once you reach a certain level in business, in athletics, you're dealing with the very best of the best. And if you're not thinking about your own thinking, then you're probably missing an opportunity.
Which for me is why I love having this podcast, because I get to interview great people like you, Brad. Great stuff. Love the conversation. Love the importance of mindset coaching. So thanks so much for coming on the podcast today.
Hey, thanks for the invite, Nate. Looking forward. Hey, we're right in the same backyard here in Lawrence, Kansas. So let's get together in person, do lunch, do something fun.